Unbelievable. Oh boy.
All right, we're live.
All right, folks. So this is a pretty anticipated live class that I wanted to do. So we got quite a few people that are big bait fanatics, and I really haven't done much on big baits. I did some stuff early on big baits. There's not something that I'm good at and I know a lot about. So when I don't know about something, I get people that know about stuff to tell you the truth about it. And so I got my buddy Bobby here. I met Bobby about 4 or 5 years ago fishing a Toyota series. I remember the first time I think I met you is at Toyota
I
or
think it
something
was
like
the
that.
I think it was the invitationals.
Was it the
It was that
Invitational?
year we traveled together.
I feel like I met you a little bit before that. What did you not fish the Toyota series at the Potomac in like 21, 22, 21, somewhere like that? No,
No,
I thought I met you
no.
there. Well, I know I definitely
Yeah.
met you when we started fishing the pro circuit in
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
22, 3, whatever that was. 4. I don't know.
2023.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Bobby fishes glide baits a lot. He likes the big baits a lot. So we're just gonna do a deep dive talking about it. Um, we can go ahead and go to that slide. I'll tell y'all exactly what we're gonna get into tonight. Bobby's fished the classic. He's won open. What else you won, Bobby? You won a Toyota series?
I haven't. I've come in second 4 times.
4 times second is
Four
unbelievable.
times. Yeah,
That's something to be proud of.
I ain't won one yet.
I know most people be like, "Oh man, I feel sorry for you." I don't feel sorry for you. That is an awesome stat. Okay, I do not feel sorry
It's
for
funny.
you at all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if somebody like looked that stat up, I think I've actually come in second 3 times, but I came in fifth in one on the Harris chain, and I left
yeah.
one in the live well that would have got me second. So I
Oh
just count that one as a
no,
second too.
I think I remember that, man.
Yeah,
I think I
not
do
good.
remember that. So this is what we're going to hit on today, and it's all going to be around the topic of glide baits. That's all we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how you discover tournament areas. How do you find water for a glide bait in a tournament specifically? Because like I told y'all, fishing tournaments and y'all going out on the weekend and catching 2 or 3 just kind of haphazardly is totally different discipline. If we want to talk about weekend fishing, we'll do that in a different workshop. But this workshop is specifically around tournament fishing. So we're going to talk about that. How do you find tournament bass, tournament areas with the glide bait? We're going to talk about why glide baits work. What's the appeal? Why should you be throwing one? And then we're going to talk about how to choose the right glide bait. Then, of course, like always, we'll look at Bobby's setup, see what kind of rod, reel, line that he's using when he's fishing a glide bait. So what I'm gonna do now, we have a couple of catches. I'm gonna get y'all all jazzed up. I'm gonna give y'all a little bit of foreplay here. I'm gonna give y'all a little bit of foreplay. We're gonna look at some of Bobby's catches here before we get started to give you an idea of what we're talking about. Everything's always in context. Let's look at this first one here. Michael, am I already good to share? Good to
You are
roll?
good.
All right, so look at this one. We'll look at this, Bobby, and then kind of tell us what's going on here.
Yeah, so this was Lake Norman. It was a Bass Open about a month ago or so. Fish were around spawn. There was some wolf packing going on for them spotted bass, and I think that's what that was because I had 2 or 3 spots chasing that spot back to the boat.
Let's see
They
if
were
we can
just
see him. Can we see him?
probably
I
not.
think I think it's just I see something right there. Can you see
It's
my
very
cursor?
possible. It's very possible. That water's so clear on Norman.
Yeah, that's a good one on Norman. I've been to
Yeah,
Norman.
yeah, 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 yeah. So, I mean, that was just kind of textbook around spawn.
Let's look at this one here. This one's a little
Hmm.
different. It's cold weather
Yeah.
here.
That was at Santee this year.
Oh, this year Santee. You threw it at
Yeah,
Santee
that was
too?
practice. That was practice when it was freezing cold.
I was in my house, dying. Oh, dear God.
Yeah, yeah.
What is that? You flipped the thing? What? Whoa, we going back. You flipped that thing?
I
Bro.
did. Dude, it was so
What
calm. They
a
were just wallering.
pair.
I love it. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Look at this thing. How did you flip
Hey,
that? There's no way I'm flipping that fish.
yeah. I mean, if it was in the tournament, I definitely wouldn't have.
Oh,
But
wait a minute. I got to do
yeah,
it
I
one
mean,
more time. I got to look at this one more time. God dang it, son. Look at this.
uh-huh, uh-huh. That's the
Oh,
highs
my
of glide
God.
bait fishing right there. That was a pre-spawn tub.
Santee has the most beautiful chunk. Like, those fish are always
Dude,
perfect. Perfect.
healthy, 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 man.
Look at that. We're going to talk about, don't tell us what that is yet, but we'll talk about
You
what
good?
bait that is.
Yep.
Look at that. I want a woman like that. God dang it. I don't think you're supposed to say that. Let's see here. Look at here. Let's look at this one. All right, this looks like Okeechobee at the canal up the. Is that where this is? Oh, I bet my internet's acting goofy.
Give me a second. We lost somebody's back.
Oh, he lost Bobby. I thought it might have been me. Okay, he's back. Somebody might have called him.
Give me just a second. I gotta get you.
Yeah, all good. I thought it was mine. I felt it kind of glitch a little bit. I know my internet does that, and I'm here by the house by myself. Sometimes it just does that.
Yeah, I don't know. It just said it said hung up, reconnect. So I reconnected.
Yeah, all good.
Right.
It happens. It ain't the first time. Trust me. Sometimes mine does that.
All right,
All
back
right,
to
this
the.
looks like
Gotcha.
Okeechobee up the rim ditch thing up the Kissimmee River. Is it?
Yeah,
That's what it looks like.
that's good eyes. That's
I
good
fished up
eyes.
here a little bit. We got a couple Florida guys in there. Oh God.
Come here, baby. Please, Jesus.
Well, I like when Bobby talks to me like that.
This was in an open.
Oh, oh God.
Look at how fat she is. Hey, give me a high five, bro.
Yes. Yes. Hump it
I
again.
was so hyped.
Shot up to it and smoked it.
Oh, Florida
Oh.
pig.
Looks like I'm looking at the same glide bait over and over. I like that. That means
Yeah,
something.
that one was actually different, but same
Okay.
color. That's why
Same
I
color.
like that
Okay.
color.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too. Look at that fish.
Hmm
I like that. I
That's
like
a Florida
that.
stud right there.
Yeah.
Old black bass. Old
Big.
tannic water bass.
I love black bass. Harris
Mm-hmm.
chain?
Semi-chain.
Oh, Kissimmee chain? Okay.
Hmm This is in the pro circuit last year. I only fished this one.
Oh yeah, I fished that one. Yeah, I fished that one.
One, Brett, and it's huge.
I got one, Brett.
Dude, it's so
Hmm I had so many nip it that day. And see, I mean, we'll get into it deeper, but like calm conditions is like the worst conditions you
Okay.
could ask for.
On the glide.
Yeah, because they can just see it so good.
Brett, not no 3-pounder, son. Let's go. Good.
I'm going.
That's the one that I'm talking about catching on it. That
Okay.
I spent big money. Look at that one.
I'm looking at it, Bobby. That's a different glide bait there. Let's see.
Yeah.
I want to see. I like to watch them waller around on top. That's my favorite thing. I'll replay stuff
Uh-huh.
like this over and over.
No.
Look.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. Dude,
shake it like
dude.
it's hot, baby.
Uh-huh.
What
They
is that
all
right
feel
there?
so sick on that broom, 'cause you're throwing a broomstick of a rod, and it's just like a tug of war. Oh, it's so much
Yeah.
fun.
Oh yeah. I'm here for it. All right, so let's get into it then. All right, where should we start here? We should start on. Let me get back to my screen so I can see what the heck I'm doing. So we looked at a couple catches there. It's got everybody. It got me fired up. If they don't have everybody else fired up,
Yeah,
I want to know.
proof that I
think
proof
The
that I have
most,
caught a bass on one.
yeah. I haven't caught one on a glide ever. Isn't that
Oof.
sad? I haven't caught one on a glide
Yeah,
yet. I have a
it's a real
couple.
niche thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things you really got to put some time in with it. I haven't. I just haven't did it yet. I want to talk about, anybody can go out and buy a glide bait and probably think they're going to be the next Bobby Bakewell, but I think you definitely got something figured out of trying to discover the right areas. Talk about any of those clips. Like, how are you discovering these areas? What are you looking for? What should we be looking for if we want to go throw a glide bait?
So the main thing is forage, like knowing what your fish are feeding on. Like, so two of those clips were in Florida. Well, obviously, one was on Santee and one was on Norman.
That's a
So,
good mix.
like the Florida ones, like those fish are feeding on gizzards, gizzard shad, and like when you're around gizzard shad eaters, a glide bait's always a good option. I mean and I will say like a glide bait's definitely not my first option a lot of the time because it is very very much like a love hate relationship. Like landing them is I mean, it's like a 50-50 shot because they have at times like, some of those baits I throw are a 6 ounce bait, so
Oh,
like they'll come up and waller. And if they get the angle right, that 6 ounce bait, it's easy for them to sling it. So, but there's instances when it's like they've never seen one before. And especially, so like those Florida ones, I was targeting them on forward facing sonar. And then that was like grass. So one of them was over top of a rock pile, and then one of them was like isolated grass clumps. So what I'll do a lot of times is I'll start with a different bait, and then like once I know like it's not going to happen, I'll switch to that glide. Or like I said, there's some days when they're just firing on that glide bait, and like say if you threw it like so how that for instance the one I caught on the Kissimmee chain, the how I like stuck that bait in my hand that day was I had one all over a jerk bait, like really really hot on forward facing sonar, and it didn't pull the trigger. And I was like, man, that's weird. And I picked the glide bait up and threw it over to it, and like I threw it past the fish, and I didn't even get it it didn't even let it get past it. Like as soon as it saw it, it went up and smoked it. And unfortunately, like I don't really have to mention this, but it was a $500 glide bait, and I hadn't thrown the glide bait in a while, and it shot up to it and smoked it, and I leaned into it, and it broke me off in the tournament,
really? It
and
broke
it was
broke the
come up
line.
jumping, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
come up jumping. It was a 5 pounder and had my $500 bait. It was just
Oh,
waving at me with it. So
now
not
this
only
one,
not only I'm fishing in a tournament where first place is 100 grand. I just broke off a $500 bait and a 5 pounder, which would have went a long way. So
yeah, that goes a long way.
that
Any
wasn't fun.
tournament,
But
anywhere. Yeah.
anyway, but that fish like told me a lot. So then after that, I kind of stuck that bait in my hand, and I think I caught 3 fish on it that ended up in my bag that day. That one that y'all saw being one of them. So like just cycling through different baits will tell you kind of what mood the fish are in. But what I'm looking for mainly, like I said, and if you do have forward facing sonar, a lot of times you can see those schools of gizzard shad. So it'll kind of clue you into, if gizzards are around and there's big ones around, they're going to be eating them. Especially if you catch a couple of those fish and they stink really bad. I don't know what it
Oh,
is, but them gizzard shad eaters really, really stink.
they have a smell.
Literally, like big time. They smell
I didn't
awful.
know that.
Smell
Yeah,
awful.
yeah. I did
Yeah.
not know that.
hmm
So,
Yeah.
so you
Yeah. It's
mentioned so
not.
basically those Florida fish that you're catching, you're either forward facing clumps of grass on a flat or something like that,
hmm
or just
Yeah.
individual fish that you're seeing that are around
Women.
groups of gizzard
hmm
shad. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
So it's very, very bait oriented, and I mean, and it's not always gizzards. Like I mean, it could be brim too. Anything that's
okay.
big. I mean, at the end of the
Big.
day, they have a little small brain. We make them think, make it seem like they're geniuses, but at the end of the
They're really
day,
not.
like if they're eating a 5 to 7 inch brim, and you throw a 7 inch glide bait out there, it doesn't necessarily matter what it is if it looks similar to what they're eating. So
Yeah.
yeah, like just knowing the forage is a really, really big deal. And then obviously with forward facing sonar, I can kind of narrow it down to how they're reacting to certain baits and stuff like that, and that'll clue me in a lot. But
So
on the other side of things, you can go ahead if you want to.
no, the only thing I wanted to before you got too far is you mentioned seeing
Yeah.
the gizzards on forward facing. Is it pretty easy to point out what gizzards look like on forward facing, or is it just like it looks like any other shad, or what's your deal there?
So they're much bigger. They're much bigger. They're still going to be in balls. They're going to be very erratic too. So gizzards have, like at their core, they're very erratic bait fish. They don't sit in one place pretty much hardly ever. So you'll see them swimming along, in packs of them, just depending on where you are, be how big the packs are. But like sometimes you'll even think they're small bass, because some of those gizzard shad are 14, 15, like they get ginormous. And if you catch one that'll eat a 14-inch gizzard, it's going to be substantial.
Yeah,
But I mean, sometimes like you throw a bait at that group of gizzards, and they just dart away, and it'll kind of clue you in, because if there was 10 to 14-inch bass in a group of 10 to 20 or 30, whatever it is, like one of them's going to be attracted to your bait if you hit them on forward facing sonar, just because of the competition aspect, and it's not necessarily a big fish, so it's not like they're going to be really, really finicky. So,
gotcha.
like, kind of just knowing their behavior, especially me, I like being around gizzard eaters for so long. Like, I know, like, pretty much as soon as I see them, I know what I'm looking at. So,
Awesome.
yeah, I mean, I can tell pretty easily there. But yes, I mean, sometimes you just got to throw a bait at them.
And so that's the more the Florida deals. You had a couple clips in there fishing like Santee and Norman, more
Mm-hmm.
reservoir lakes. What was that about? Talk about those areas. What were you looking
Yeah.
for?
So
The best.
Santee, they just got big fish in Santee, and like
Yeah,
it's full
that's
of
the ghetto,
just
cuz.
meat pies. Like,
The ghetto
yeah.
down there.
So yeah, you saw that one that I caught.
Yeah,
That one
man.
was around 8 pounds. I don't know if it quite hit 8.
You got the
But
body
regardless,
yachty.
it was a giant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that body yachty was
So
yachty.
but that lake actually, so I know they have a population of gizzard shad, but also it's just part of my rotation. A glide bait is now, like I said, it's not towards the front of it, but like that day, I was experimenting with baits, throwing different baits, and then I picked up a glide and threw it in front of that fish, and it was instant, and it really clued me in. So I don't know if necessarily that was a gizzard shad eater. I was also told, I didn't even know this, but Santee Cooper has yellow perch in it. Do you know that?
Oh yeah. We got yellow perch in almost all our lakes.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the ones we catch up north on the Great
Mhm.
Lakes and stuff. Yeah, I
Yeah.
had no idea.
Yeah.
So, like that's just
We call them
another big
Eisenhower.
forage that they could be. No,
We call it
huh?
the locals a lot of times call them Eisenhowers.
Really?
Yeah, my dad them call them Eisenhowers. You won't even like on Hartwell, we have them. Clarksville, the whole Savannah River chain, we have them. When I was younger, we used to have a lot of them, but now
Hmm,
I don't know what happened. They need the water to be pretty cool and moving, but we don't have as many as we used to when I was younger. We used to catch them on a jigging spoon, really deep back in the day, but you
gotcha,
don't see them as often. But we definitely have them. Definitely have them in all our lakes.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't even know that, and then I heard
Mhm.
of multiple people catching them in that tournament during practice and stuff. I
Mhm.
know Kyle Cordiana caught one. He posted a picture of it. It was like dang near 2 pounds. It was ginormous. But
Yeah,
like
they
to prove your point, it was really cold in that tournament, so maybe they were just more abundant then. But yeah, so I mean, just anywhere that you have a big forage, so that's one of the reasons I broke that bait out, and like I said, big bait, it's a glide bait is kind of has a
How about?
reputation of. Uh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, how about there a specific cover that you look for, or any kind of visual aids that you look for throwing that glide?
Um, Not necessarily. So isolated targets, it can be really good. Like brush piles, isolated stumps, isolated grass patches. That is something that, and the reason being, a glide bait is typically a very slow sink bait. And the reason being is you don't want it to sink fast. So this will dive into a whole nother category, but I do add weight to them. In fact,
Okay.
I got a couple right here, and I'll just show. This one's been literally like eaten alive. It has no fins left on it or anything, but
Yeah.
you can see the weight strips I added to the top of it. It's just lead strips, and when I use obviously more weight when I'm trying to get it to fish, but the less weight you use, the better, because you can almost work it like a suspending jerk bait. So, like when I'm working it over an isolated piece of cover, I can work that bait really slow and methodical. But if I'm fishing for cruising fish, I'll add more weight to it, depending on how deep they are. Obviously, if they're shallow, then they'll be able to see it. It doesn't even have to sink. But if I have fish cruising in 10+ feet of water and I have to get that bait down to them, that's when I'll add. That's when I add these weight strips to them. And you can also add weight to the trouble, like lead wire to the treble hooks and stuff. This one doesn't have the trebles on it, but
Right.
I got a couple more over here to do. But so, yeah, so the isolated targets are really, really good for something like that, because you can pause it in their face and just make
Keep it
them
quick.
make a decision.
Yeah, just make it right there in their
But
face. Almost like how you use a prop
hmm
bait in
hmm
a way.
yeah,
Something like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So like as far as instances goes, like Santee got that, but like so Norman, that was a no forward facing sonar event. It was a Bass Open earlier this year. It was about a month ago, and the fish were around spawn. They were up cruising. There was some fish wolf packing up shallow. Whether they were feeding on brim or what it was. And that particular one, I wasn't throwing a big giant glide. I got it hung on my bed. This is a clutch darter, and I believe this bait's 7 inches. Of course, I looked up the how big the other glides I throw are. But I believe this bait's 7 inches. It's not very heavy as far as the world of glide baits goes. Maybe 2 ounces. Um,
Yeah,
but kind of the beauty of a bait like this is, am I glitching on your screen too?
just a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit. Hopefully it'll
Okay,
clear
okay,
up in a second.
okay, okay.
It's
But
glitching.
but yeah. Anyway, so I'll throw a bait like this, shallow. This bait really really excels. It doesn't excel adding weight to it. It really excels kind of working towards the top of the water column. It's a very very wide glide, and kind of each glide has their own different categories. Whether you have a real slow wide glide where you have to work it really slow, and you can't speed it up. And then there's other ones that are on the absolute opposite of it, that are real choppy. They have a very narrow margin of how far they'll go back and forth. Um, this bait can kind of do both, but it really excels in the wide glide category. And what I was doing in that event, the one fish that I did catch on it was under a walkway, but a lot of Lake Norman has floating docks. So there was fish that were in every stage. They were pre-spawn, spawn, and post-spawn, but there was a good bit of post-spawn fish that were on fry, and they'll get on those floating docks and just guard their fry balls, whether they're on the posts on the floating docks or just on the floats. And this bait does have such a wide glide to it, and erratic, real wide. A lot of the baits that have wider glides, they're not very erratic. It's real slow. But a bait like this kind of you can work it fast and make it go really wide at the same time. You can almost, I mean, this is getting really advanced, but like, I don't know if you've ever done it before, Brian, but like, you can like steer a spook on the top of the water.
Yeah,
Like if
yeah.
you twitch it,
Pop our
yeah,
fish.
yeah, yeah, like yeah, like twitch it short, one time, and then twitch it really hard the next time, and it'll make it go. And you can almost like steer that bait a certain
Make it go
direction.
one way.
Or you
Yeah.
can do the yeah. So you can literally do the same thing with this. I was like I would twitch it really hard when it was going towards the floating dock, and it would dart under that dock almost a foot or
Oh,
two, and
oh,
then you can slow twitch it the next time and get it to just come back to like the edge of the dock, and then twitch it hard again, and it'll go
dang,
even further under that dock. So
that's
it's
dangerous.
like you're
Mm,
fishing for a fish that like nobody else fishes for with a
mm,
bait like this. So there's
yeah,
very, very there's glides that are very instance based, and like a glide like this is made for that instance. So like knowing what glide to pick up in certain instances. But you talk about like knowing like what cover to throw a certain glide at fish. Like like I said, brush piles, great thing. Isolated covers, docks. That's as isolated cover as it gets.
mhm.
Especially that time of year when they're up on the bank. And there was also, like I said, there were some wolf packing fish. I caught a couple just throwing it down the bank when they're up cruising shallow, whether they're moving up to spawn or afterwards when they're feeding up on brim.
Yeah. So you said something about talking about if they're wide glide or more narrow. Can you tell what the action is going to look like based on the body shape, like basically from the package? If somebody wanted to go buy one
Yeah,
right now, they could look at the shape and kind of
yeah,
get an idea if it's going to be a wide or
hmm
more
hmm
narrow.
yeah,
Talk about that a
yeah.
little bit.
So a bait that's very short. So like this one's very very short up and down, like obviously compared to
Yeah, this way.
something like this.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. So a bait like that is not going to be erratic bait. Usually, like I said, this one
Right.
kind of does the best of both
Sure.
worlds, but there's certain instances. But usually, the baits that are more cylindrical, I guess would be the word to use. Those are your baits that are going to be slow, wide glides, side to side, and they're gonna they're gonna span a lot more distance. And there are certain instances where those fish like really really target on that. And like I said, it depends on what they're eating. So like some guys out west and like Cali and stuff like that are targeting like trout eaters, which obviously we don't have that luxury, but
Not much. Not
they
much.
throw a lot of like big, I mean, big glide baits. Like 10 inches is like the low end on their,
Right.
on their spectrum. And they'll throw all the way up to, I know some guys that throw like 16 inchers, which is insane.
That's
Because a
crazy.
16-inch bait, I don't know the answer, so don't barbecue me here. But I mean, you're looking at a pound,
Pound.
bait.
A shoe.
I mean, yeah,
That's a
like
whole
six. I
shoe.
mean, you're looking at 16 ounces. Because I mean, this bait in particular. So I got one right here. I know for a fact this is a Clutch Boss. This is the one that I caught that big one on Santee that I boat flipped. It's literally
Yeah.
that exact bait. But
It's that.
this bait is 9 3/4 inches, and it's I believe 7 ounces.
Wow.
Or no, it's 7.1. But so
Okay.
I mean, you figure the bait's 16 inches long. You got a whole nother dang
Yeah.
almost six
That's
seven inches on it.
maybe a couple
So it's going to
pounds.
weigh a ton more.
You're throwing a
But
super
yeah,
bass.
so like, yeah, it's got to be super exhausting. Like your
Yeah.
gear's got to be perfect to throw a bait like that around for, let alone an hour or all day. But um, like so those guys, like when they're targeting trout eaters, a trout's a very cylindrical fish, so they're gonna be targeting something like that. And I could be wrong here, but I don't think trout are very erratic moving fish. I could be totally wrong here. I don't
I don't think
know. I
so
don't have
either.
trout in my area,
I
but
don't think so either.
yeah. So
I think from what I remember, trout fishing, you could see them, and it's like only their tail
mhm.
moves. It's only their
Yeah,
tail.
yeah. So it's very different, categories when it comes to glides and stuff like that. So yeah, so as far as like telling, if you're looking at a bait that's very very short height wise, it's typically going to be a bait that's going wide side to side. That's more of a slow deal. And then as you get into the short lengthwise ones. So like this bait, I mean, this is a baby boss. It's just the smaller version of that boss. And this bait is 7 inches long, and
Yeah.
I think it's 2 ounces, which is not heavy in the glide bait world. It might be 4 ounces, to be honest with you. Don't quote me on that,
Yeah.
but yeah. So a bait like this, as you can tell, it's very. Let me get it right in the camera. It's very tall. It's very, very tall, and it's not very, very long. So you can tell that way, and also the joint. That's a huge way to tell is the joint. So you look at this joint, and it's going to be how far that bait. I'm over here fighting the camera, but it's how
Yeah.
far that bait will go that way.
Okay. I
So
see.
you
Yeah.
see that bait goes. I'm fighting the hell out of this camera.
It's like
You
reverse,
see
so
that
like left
bait.
is right and right is left. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's backwards.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you see that bait goes really, really far this direction,
Yeah.
and then this bait. I'll show you like this one right here. See if I can get them both in the same deal. Um, we'll get them in there. We'll get them in there. Look, okay, yeah. So this bait, doesn't quite. It's the same exact bait. It's just bigger. So it's going to be around the same. Now, this bait, a lot of people will see this bait, and especially if they know what it is, they'll be kind of freaking out because of how beat up it is. So this bait's a Hinkle shad, and that's you're looking at $300 to $500 if you want to get one of these.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, you can really, really, really break the bank when it comes to glide bait fishing. But the the difference with this bait, you can see it doesn't go as far.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's a lot more. It kind of does more now than it did when I got it because I've absolutely beat it to hell. But I bought it not to use, or I bought it not to look at it. I bought to use it.
Well, to use
So,
it. Yeah. Gosh dang it. $500
you're
of
damn right.
use.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
So in our profession, it's all about return on investment. So,
Yeah.
I felt like that $500 bait got me more bites than some other baits at the time. Now we've come so long, so far in the swim bait market that there are baits that are, this clutch boss is about the same size, and you can see about the same color scheme. I really like that color scheme. It's the purple gizzard color scheme, but this
Who
bait's
makes
only
the clutch?
$200.
Is Clutch the
Yeah,
name of the
clutch,
brand? It
clutch,
is. That's the name of the brand.
clutch swim
Hey,
baits. Yep.
isn't there one that Spro makes that you like too? Was it the Chad thing?
Yeah. So Spro makes one that's it's a Chad shad, and that
Yeah.
one's really affordable.
It's
It's
like 80 bucks.
it's about
Something.
I think it's 60.
Okay.
I think it's $60. But that bait was just he worked with Clutch Swim Baits, or not Clutch Swim Baits. I'm sorry, KGB Swim Baits, and work with them, and they kind of got a mold together, and because KGB made that exact bait but in resin and charged, I don't know what he charged for it, but it was over $100.
Yeah.
And then so Spro made a deal with them, and they got together and they started plunking out plastic ones, and it kind of the swim bait market was always seemed kind of inaccessible because you had to either know somebody or be on website forums or dang Facebook pages, stuff like that, just to get your hands on one. And
Right.
now Spro kind of tapped into that market, and now a bunch of different companies are diving into it because people are starting to see kind of the beauty of it because everybody and their mother throws the same cycle of baits. Everybody throws a fluke, everybody throws a Senko, everybody throws a worm.
Exactly.
You know,
Nico.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So now,
Yeah.
like, they haven't seen a whole lot of this big, side of things on that. People haven't touched that side of the spectrum other than like a 10 or 12-inch worm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of Spro kind of was one of the ones that made it more accessible and got to show people kind of the beauty of these baits. And those cheaper ones are a really good way to kind of to put your toe in the pond.
Yeah.
There are all kinds of different companies that make cheaper They make cheaper and smaller glides. Clutch makes a couple. They got an Eco, and that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. They got a couple of them, and more new ones coming out, but that are just plastic. And they still have great action, but the majority of them are going to be choppy. So, like, I typically I kind of like a mixture of both. The tighter, choppy glides that are real short they don't have as much draw power. So when I talk about draw power, that's kind of the beauty of these big baits. It's just
pulling them out.
Every single fish that I throw at with this bait is going to look at it, which is you can't say that about every bait. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're going to look at it. Now, a very low percentage of them are going to eat it. That's the double-edged sword with these dang things.
Yeah.
But every single one of them is going to look at it, and like I said, that's pretty dang rare. So when you have that short glide, it's going to be a split-second decision. You know, you're typically going to be working that bait a lot faster than you are, these slower gliding baits that you can kind of twitch and kind of let sit there and let it do its entire, glide, and then proceed to do the next one. It can be more, more attractive, or whatever words you want to use as far as that goes, to kind of trigger that fish into biting. And a lot of times, if you can get that bait to look at that fish dead in the face, as crazy as it sounds, but there is something to do with that. Like, I mean, it just sometimes like that's like the difference maker when you can, and you're not going to do that with a tight chopping bait. Right. But some of these wider gliding baits, they glide so far that the bait will almost look back at the fish. And sometimes and the reason being for that is because, as most of us know, bass are typically going to want to eat a bait head first, especially a bait that big. So, that's like another appeal to the wide glide, and why I like to use baits like that, because, there's so many different approaches and stuff like that. But these baits that I have are kind of like best of both worlds. So I can work this boss really quick, side to side, and I can also slow it down and work it really slow. That's kind of a hybrid, which is why I use them so much. And I mean, you can tell these dang baits are just absolutely chewed.
Yeah, you use them. Yeah, you can tell you use them.
Yeah, I don't buy them to look at them.
Yeah, you can tell those are not cool. You're not just into it because it's cool and you want to wear a flat brim. Yeah. You're really into this. So,
I didn't usually, but one of my sponsors, Copper State Tackles, is out of Arizona, and they're out West Boys. So he's like and the whole dialed thing. Like I flew over to Arizona and we did a seminar. I believe it was earlier this year, and I say dialed a lot. It's just kind of something that I have in my vocabulary that I like saying. And by the time I left there, you're dang right. Everybody around the shop was saying dialed. Everybody. And he called me. He's like, dude, everybody's saying dialed now. So he's like, I'm going to make you a hat. Yeah. He said, I'm going to make you a hat. So he made a hat, said dialed on it. And he sent me 3 flat bills and 3 like the regular style. And he said, do me a favor, try the flat bill first. And first tournament I fished with the flat bill was Wheeler, and I came in 17th. And I was like, all right, maybe I'll keep it around for a little while longer.
I'm sold on that. Michael, we can jump to that next slide. One powerful thing you were talking about has really got me kind of excited about this. Is you were talking about being able to take the glide and manipulate it to go under a dock. Like, dude, that's dangerous stuff, man, because there's not a lot of baits that you can get under a dock other than a worm. There ain't really many things you can get to do that. And then even at a worm, unless you have a hole to cast it in, you still can't get it under.
Exactly.
Be able to get that thing down under the water and get it going under places where that's dangerous. Very, very powerful tool. And the other thing too I like about glides, just through hearing people talk about it, is the fact that you can at least at a minimum get fish to show themselves. So maybe you
great practice bait.
Yeah, man. Yeah, like maybe I think fish are on these isolated pieces of wood or on laydowns or on docks. But when I throw my jig or my Nico or whatever else most people throw, I'm not getting bites. But if you can get them to show themselves with that, at least you got something to go off of. You can't go off when you're not getting bites, dude. It's hard to go off of anything.
Yeah.
It's in a tournament
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, it's a
Definitely.
great practice bait for that reason. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, even if if you're throwing for instance, like where you're at, like a lot of spotted bass fisheries and stuff like that. If you throw a dang 9-inch bait, very rarely is a fish going to come up and eat that. Now, don't get me wrong, a fish will, but I'm saying like
You will.
typically a bass like around you, and obviously it's definitely situational, but a big one's going to be like 4 pounds.
Yeah,
Like
it
that's
is.
like a
Yeah.
big fish.
3-4 pounds of
hmm
fish is a big fish. I don't care what anybody says. I don't
Exactly,
care
exactly.
what your social
So
media
like
says.
yeah, so if you're targeting 3-pounders and you break out a big bait like that, there's not a lot of 3-pounders that are going to eat it. Don't get me wrong, I've caught a lot of 3-pounders on a 9-inch bait, but
Yeah.
typically they're just going to follow it because a 9-inch bait getting into a 3-pounder's mouth is easier said than done. But
Yeah.
so it's a very, very, very good practice bait for that reason.
Yeah, I like the idea that part of it's got me pretty excited to even start exploring with that. And then the part you're talking about, the baits too. You kind of were starting to dip your toes into this part of the conversation too, but I'd like to do it a little bit more formally and just talk about why the glide is attractive and like why you should be throwing them, or even just you yourself, personally, why do you pick it up, and why does it work? What's the appeal there to bass with glide baits over crankbaits, swim bait, a fluke, or whatever, a worm, just sort of like what we were just talking about.
Well, yeah, I mean, the it just comes back to the forage thing, So like if I know they're feeding on, if they're feeding on bigger baits, but a lot of the times it's especially with forward facing, if you have the pleasure of being able to have it, like I can cycle different baits and kind of see what mood the fish are in, or it can also tell me like what the fish are feeding on just by cycling through different baits, whether I throw a Nico at them, a jig at them, a jerkbait at them, and then like they're not feeding on the bottom, on like the Nico or the jig or like the jerkbait, they just follow it and then be like, okay, last resort, pick the glide up and put it in front of them, and they're either going to do it or they're not. They're going to follow it. That's the beauty of it. They're going to follow it, but they may not eat it. So
Okay.
when you can put that bait in front of that fish, and if it just absolutely comes unglued on it instantaneously, to kind of tell you, okay, either it's the day, whether it's the conditions. Like I was saying, that one day was slick, calm. I had a ton of followers and very, very few eaters, and that's typically not obviously what you want. You want to have a good ratio between followers to eaters, and certain days you're gonna have different one. Whether it's cloudy, nasty, rainy, and then it's a reaction bite, and they're just gonna come unglued on it, or it's flat, calm, and sunny, and they get a really good look at it, and they'll just slow follow it for a long time, and not necessarily pull the trigger. I mean, it's the same thing with like herring fishing and stuff like that. Like them days that it's nasty and stuff like that, they just go to biting. But the days that they can, especially by you, the water's so clear, they can get such a good look at your bait.
That's why we move stuff so
Yeah.
fast here. Like everything's fast.
Everything's reaction.
Yeah. Everything's fast on the top. That's why the glides haven't really, as far as I know, hasn't been a major component for his tournament competition here. But some of the bigger swim baits, the Seville Magic Swimmers, stuff like that. My buddy makes one. Rob Jordan makes one called Mag 44. I actually may have it on my wall back here. Actually, I do. Let me show you.
We're getting into the secrets.
Yeah. Rob makes this bait right here called a Mag 44. You can see it's got the smaller. It's not as tall from top to bottom, double jointed. So it's real erratic, but it stays. It swims really fast. You can reel it really fast, and it'll stay under the water. So yeah, stuff like that's pretty common and popular around here. That's a resin bait too.
Yeah. Well, I got you. I
But
got you.
just the
That bait
fact
had to
you
have been hard to make. That's a lot of joints.
yeah, I bet it is. Rob's a genius. I don't know if you've met him yet, Rob Jordan. You know
Mm-mm.
Rob yet? Extreme
Mm-mm.
Lure Creations. Just literally the smartest person I know when it comes to. I mean, I don't know anybody that can do what he can do. He can make a lure out of a piece of stick. Like
Yeah.
it's actually crazy. But he just comes up with these
Yeah.
ideas, dude, and then like a week later he'll make them, and it's like stuff that you never thought of. He makes a bunch of forward facing sonar baits, top water baits. He makes these swim baits. He could make a glide if he wanted to, but he, most of his the clientele around here wants baits that look like
Yeah. Herring. Herring.
the
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
It's crazy. There's some people that just have the mind for that stuff. Like they see it and they can just create it. But that's
yeah,
it's very few. Which there's a lot of them glide bait guys, like especially the like niche resin ones that are still like you can only get them on forums and stuff like that. They don't sell any retail. They're some weird cats. Like
yeah, yeah.
they're very isolated, and it's just because like they're just. I just
Thinking
think it's whether it's they're very intelligent or they just have they're wired that way that they're just
wired different.
like their mind just works in a different way.
Yeah, they're wired completely different. Rob is
Hmm.
I I he'll probably choke me if I say he's weird, but he's definitely wired a different way. Like he thinks of stuff and like, man, I never even thought of anything that way. But he's a really good painter too. Rob paints he paints stuff that's just absolutely crazy. Crazy good.
Hmm. Super
Um
realistic.
yeah, very realistic. It's almost looks like something when he paints. He's painted brim lures and obviously heron stuff and even shiner stuff before. And you look at it and it's like, man, it looks like it was a computer image just printed on the side of the bait.
Hmm.
Really good with that kind of stuff. Let's talk a little bit, Mike. We can jump to the next slide. Let's talk a little bit about and like again, you covered a lot of stuff really fast. I want to kind of just a little bit more formally talk about how to choose the right glider, and you really kind of you did do that, but just in case anybody has
Yeah.
just to more formally kind of talk about it, you really touched on that pretty good already. But you already talked about this and wide versus the more narrow glides, and how do you decide which one you want to throw? Is it always just going to be how the fish are reacting, or is it going to be more about, well, I'm fishing docks, I use this one. When I'm fishing open water, I use that one. How are you
Hmm.
deciphering all that?
Um. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be very forage based. Like I mean, we travel all over the place, so I have a
Uh,
ginormous bag of them that's basically replicates different forage. But
So more about
I'm
forage than
I'm
cover. You're not thinking about cover. You're thinking about forage.
yeah, most of the time, yeah.
Perfect.
And also like size of the fish. I mean that's a given too. Like I'm not gonna throw like I said, I'm not going to throw one of these 9-inch baits when a big giant fish in one of these fisheries is 4 pounds. I'll probably
Mhm.
step it down to something more like a 7-inch bait, like I was showing, like the baby boss or something like that.
Okay.
And really, as far as like, I'll take it a step further and like, these baits are very hard to get a hold of in certain instances. Like these baits are resin baits, particularly the ones I'm talking about. Um, but there are a good few out there that you can kind of dip your just ones that like you were talking about the KGB ones that you can just kind of start with and get some comfort with them before you kind of dive in head first because
Yeah.
I mean you don't want to just start out and like get something like this like a $500 Hinkle. Um,
No,
the
sir.
the reason I get something like this is because we do it for a living and it's all about
Yeah.
return on investment.
Fair.
So
Very
so when
fair.
you're gonna like find something that like whether you're just starting out or whether you're really advanced, like just starting out, I would pick something that's in your price range and kind of see how it acts and stuff like that and get used to how it works because the whole thing with these baits, the whole thing is you do not want it to blow out. And what I mean by that
Okay, yeah.
is that bait's going to sit straight up and down in the water. And if you do the wrong action, that bait's going to roll or do something funny. And
Okay.
that fish is going to be tracking that bait. And as soon as that bait does something funky, sometimes a very, very rare occurrence, it'll trigger them into biting, but the majority of the time, it's amazing. Like as soon as they see that,
Out of
gone.
here. Not
Yeah.
real.
So, yep, yep, yep. So like getting a feel for how these glides work, and that's kind of the difference maker between some of these cheaper glides and the more expensive glides. It's the how do I word this? It is harder to make that bait blow out than comparatively to another bait. Like the cheaper baits that you can find, whether it's a $40 to $60 plastic glide, that bait's going to have more than likely. Don't get me wrong, there are some, and typically it's the little choppy ones that have a narrow margin of error. Like they don't have obviously, if a bait has more movement side to side, it's more susceptible to having errors. Because I do it all with my reel. I'm kind of going all over the
Okay.
place right now, but yeah.
Yep.
So especially the
You're doing
choppy
this
ones.
thing with the reel.
Yep. Yep. So you can especially the choppy ones. You can do it with your rod. You can just kind of twitch your rod, but I get you can actually like reel that bait. And some baits, when you reel them, they're just going to go straight. It's just something about like putting slack in them that actually makes them work. It's kind of like a spook. But
Okay.
when you if you reel a bait, you can actually feel it like the line tighten and untighten. And it's when you're initially pulling, it's the start of that curve, and then when you're feeling slack is when it's coming at you and making
Mhm.
that glide. And you can actually
Okay.
you'll feel it tighten and slacken up. And when it slackens up, it's towards the end of his cadence.
Okay.
So you can actually get a feel for it just by like pitching it out there and just watching it on the top of the water, just reeling your bait, kind of getting a feel for what you can do to make that bait look as realistic as possible and like have the least chance to blow out possible. So
Hey, so
that's like as far as
that's one thing I meant to ask you about this. Let me stop you.
yep.
Are you always able to physically see your bait, or you
Mhm.
are letting it go out of sight quite often?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The kind of the benefit you guys have and like this darter, like I said, it's typically you're going to be working this bait around the top of the water column. So this bait, typically yes, especially because it's a herring kind of profile, and
Mhm.
it's not just for use like around herring lakes and stuff like that. There's guys that it's actually a very 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 good bed fishing bait, and
Okay.
that's because it doesn't move forward a lot, but it has that wide glide and it'll kind of stay into place.
It
So
stays in the
that's
strike
kind of
zone.
one.
It aggravates them more longer.
So
Okay.
yeah, so a bait like that where it's going to stay higher in the water column, and especially around fisheries like you where it's really clear, or whether you go up north or something like that where you just have real clear bodies of water. Yes, but all these other baits, no, no,
Okay.
it's all feel or forward facing sonar. I mean, I wade in. People think I can only throw it on forward facing. That's all. That's always a sore subject. But I actually
Yeah.
weighed
Yeah.
in to the final day of the Toyota Series event on the Kissimmee chain on a glide without forward facing sonar, which
Right.
was really sick. But anyway, yeah. So as far as like what glide I'm going to pick up, go ahead if you want to.
Well, have you tried that up north at all? Have you tried any glides up north at all? Had any success?
With smallmouth,
Smallmouth, or even just, I mean, the largemouth fishing is so good up there. Have you had a chance to
man,
explore with it?
I haven't. For largemouth,
Yeah.
I definitely haven't. Um,
Yeah.
I know there are definitely instances where they play, but I haven't had the pleasure.
Yeah.
Smallmouth, I've caught a couple of them on it, but nothing. I've never got on like a deal doing it
Yeah,
yet.
I know.
Yet.
The smallmouth eat perch, and perch are not small. So I feel like
Exactly.
there's
I mean, a bait like that size or that profile. I mean, that it would imitate a perch
just
just as
them
well.
all.
Something something that's short, height wise, and it's going to be more cylindrical. That'll imitate a perch perfectly. So yeah, I mean, I definitely want to. Don't get me wrong, but I haven't. I'm not going to lie to you and say that I have.
I think the trouble too is you got to remember up north you got other fish that would love to have that $500.
Yeah, the muskies, man, the muskies
Yeah,
and the pike. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
they would love for you to throw that out there so they
Mhm.
can lay their teeth on that thing. I think
Oh
that
my
would
gosh,
probably
yeah.
be the issue there more than anything.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah. I mean, could you imagine throwing a two hundred
Oh,
dollar bait out there and getting it murked by a
this
pike?
big old muskie just comes up. Woof, woof,
Yeah.
woof. Who knows what else they
Uh-huh.
got up there? Now, if you hook one around here, it's pretty much probably going to be a bass. I would say,
Yeah.
it's pretty much going to be a bass. But man, up
Hmm.
there, I just don't know. God, it's even an $80 or $100 bait, man. You're probably going to
Yeah.
you're going to lose a couple of them.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
definitely going to lose a
Yeah. I
couple
mean,
of
shoot, we were just me and Hollywood just went up there and he caught a couple pike on just a little marabou jig. So I can only imagine if I
them.
was
Yeah, man.
throwing a glide, what would have happened.
Oh man, they'd be like, "Oh, look at that smallmouth going across there."
Yeah.
Yeah, I know he did not decide to swim out here. Yeah, that'd be a
Yeah.
shame.
Yeah.
I always felt like it was an opportunity for that because I know smallmouth. We always coin them down to small baits, but I know they eat big stuff. So I've always wondered
Oh yeah.
if it could work up there.
Yeah,
But
I mean, same deal. Like big spooks or pencils or stuff like
yeah,
that. We throw
even
five
the
inch,
minnows,
5 inch. Yeah, yeah,
even the big
yeah,
minnows are a big deal there. So yeah, I
mm-hmm.
can see that working. Um,
100%.
so we don't keep you too long. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and go into like your rod reel line combo because I got questions. When you're throwing 9-inch, 7-inch baits, 2 ounce, 4, 5, 6, 7 pound
Hmm.
baits, like what does that setup look like? What does that rod reel line look like?
So the bigger baits. So I'm not going to go over like something like this boss. Like I'm not going to go over this bait's 9 3/4 inches. This is the top end of my spectrum. Like especially tournament fishing wise. I'm just I'm not going to go over that. That's kind of the happy medium. And
Yeah,
typically, so that bait is I think I think I said it was 7 ounces.
yeah,
I believe that one's 7 ounces, and this ankle is 6 ounces. Um, so typically, I'm not going to go over that 6 to 8 ounce range. People do, but I don't. And you need a glide or you need a rod for that. Now,
yeah, man.
something like this, where it's 2 ounces, you don't need. It's not as technique specific. So I have a glide bait rod for these bigger glides, and it's just I'm looking for an 8 foot rod. There's I mean, you can go as far as getting 2 piece rods and all this stuff. The particular one that I use is a Fitzgerald. It's just an 8 foot heavy, and it's rated. I believe it's rated 4 to 8 ounces, and that's going to be kind of what you're looking for on when you're getting a rod for the glide bait that you want to do. Is really really you want to care more. I know a lot of guys we don't really care about what the weight the rod's weighted for and like our smaller baits and stuff like that. But when you're throwing baits like this, it really really matters. So if you're going to throw a 10 ounce bait on a rod that's weighted 4 to 8 ounces, it's not particularly made for that. You probably can get away with it, but where it really shines and what you're really looking for is some people will just put these these glides just on like a flipping stick, and you're going to lose a lot of fish, and you're going to work yourself tired. I mean, just
Okay,
absolutely tired.
talk about
Um,
why.
the
Why?
re-
Why is that?
yeah, I know,
Was
I
it?
know. I'm getting into that. So the reason being is a flipping stick. You're looking at a broomstick. So like the glide bait rods, they're very very parabolic, and they actually have a lot of bend to them. They're very at first glance they're a broomstick, but they have a lot of load to them. So
Mhm.
like for instance, I mean, the whole rod might load, and depending on the rod that you get, and obviously the action. But you don't want a broomstick because of that, throwing it all day, and also, at the end of the day, we're dealing with treble hooks. So if you get a really, really, really stiff rod, you're gonna rip the treble hooks out of their mouth, and it's already hard enough to get them into the boat as it is. So what I'm looking for in a rod is a rod that's very parabolic, and that rod will load and unload when you go to throw that bait. I'm something that your viewers might be able to compare into is like an A rig. Throwing a bait like that's that heavy all day long. If you don't have the right rod for it, you're going to be exhausted at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So throwing the bait, that's where it's really important. And then also at the end of the day, you're dealing with troubles. So when I'm throwing a bait, like one of these two, you're dealing with like 2 to 4 ounces, or I don't remember how heavy this bait is off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure this one's 2 ounces. I'm pretty sure this one's 4 ounces. But once you get into like the 4 ounces or less, it's not as bad. Like it's not quite as technique specific. I'm actually going to fact check myself. So this is 2 ounces. All right.
2
I was
ounces.
wrong. So yeah. So both these baits are right at 2 ounces. So
still an 8-foot rod.
2 ounce. I don't actually.
Okay.
I can. Right. You can for this one. But once you get into that, I mean, those rods are broomsticks in the sense of like they're not extremely sensitive. I mean, I'm sure you can spend money. I mean, you can spend an ungodly amount of money on anything nowadays, but especially on like those big rods. I mean, you can drop $1,000 on an 8-foot rod, I'm sure. Yeah. And maybe something like that, it'd be a little more sensitive. But a lot of the times, like I'm sure there are times where it's like a thump. But a lot of times I just go to turn that reel handle and it'll pull or load or whatever. And I'm just reeling and leaning into them. It's not very, very, I'm not setting the hook as hard as I can. You don't have to. You got treble hooks. So it's just going to be a reel into them deal. So like these baits, like this bait in particular at that open, I was throwing on a 7.6 medium heavy. So, I mean, a rod that's very, very obtainable. You can go lighter. I'm a taller guy, so I'm typically going to throw, a longer rod than most people anyway. But yeah, I mean, 7.6 medium heavy, and I had very, very, like it was very comfortable throwing it all day. And then also like that medium heavy, it's if you're going to throw it on a 7.6 heavy, you're probably going to run into that. We're going to run into that, pulling the hooks out of the fish, and you get tired throwing that bait all day long. So that's why I went with a medium heavy, because it's a little more parabolic.
That's what I always refer to that medium heavy. It's just got a little bit more, just you want to ride.
Yeah. And then the line that I use. So I mean, the more choppy glides, I would go with a faster gear ratio reel. And then the slower ones, like I throw the big 9-inch ones on like somewhere in the 6s, 6.4 1, something like that. And then the more choppy ones, the only reason I'm using a faster reel is because you don't have to work as hard. And then as far as line goes, I'm throwing these big boys on 25-pound tests, because I've been an idiot before and throwing $175 bait on 16, just because it's what I had on it at the time, and backlash, and it stops dead, and that 6-ounce bait keeps going into the horizon.
Keep on going.
And braid's the same way. So some people like throwing braid to a leader. I absolutely despise it. And the reason being, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Kevin Van Dam, who you are. You're going to throw, and that braid's going to stop dead, especially when you're dealing with a 6-ounce bait or something like that. And if you got a 6-ounce bait on the end of that line, I don't care if you're throwing 100. I mean, maybe if you're throwing 100, it might hold up. But if that bait stops dead and that 6-ounce bait is going, it's not going to stop. Yeah. And it's going to disappear into the horizon. You're going to be pissed.
You're going to be mad. Yeah. I don't like the knot. And so if you're using, I would imagine, if you try to do braid to fluorocarbon, still if let's just say you use, I would imagine you have to use at least 50 or 65-pound test braid on a bait caster, and then you still need 20 to 25-pound leader. That knot is going to be humongous.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't feel good going through the guides, in my opinion.
No, you're gonna have to make it short, definitely, if you are gonna have to do something like that. But
Yeah.
so I don't really see the value. And then also, then you're dealing with pulling the treble hooks out of fish when you got no stretch. So I particularly like fluorocarbon. Like I said, 25 on the big ones, and then these smaller ones, I'll just go with like 20.
20.
Nothing special. Yeah.
So that's actually still pretty small.
Nice.
Like 25 can be a booger to deal with at times. But do you have a special reel for that, or are you using just your regular reels for these baits?
Yeah. So I'll use that's a good point. At first I was, but it's a super pain. So 25-pound test. I mean, it's like weed whacker string. It's like rope, and it's I don't care what brand you use. It's gonna have a ton of memory.
Mm-hmm.
So you're dealing with that. But so if you do use those 50 or 100 size reels, it's gonna coil, or if you and you got to cut off a little bit, you don't get a lot of line on that reel at 25-pound test. So I went ahead and I bought a 300. It's just a 300 size reel. Just the one I'm throwing is just a Lose Super Duty. Not sponsored by them or anything. It's just kind of the one that I use. Just whichever one you're comfortable with. But yeah, just the depth of the spool, throwing that 25-pound line, especially if you're throwing it on forward face and you're only dealing with 100 feet anyway. But if you're not, that's when that bigger reel is really going to be imperative.
Yeah, so bigger reels, 25-pound test, 20 to 25-pound test, regardless of which ones it is. 7.6 for the smaller baits, and your 8-foot rods for those larger baits. That's all right. Mike, let's do a little Q&A and then see what we got. We got any? I've seen some questions popping up. It's kind of hard to keep up with them. So we got. I see you already talked about the line. There was a question there about that. Did you screenshot any other things earlier on? I've been watching like the last 15 minutes or so.
Yeah. Do you use speed clips or no?
That's a good question. That's an advanced question right there.
That's a
I don't. Yeah. So I don't. But what he's talking about is some people, what they'll do is they'll use clips on the nose of the bait, and it's just for instance, if you had multiple different glides laid on the deck, whether it's different colors or different glide baits, you can actually just tie onto that clip and pop the clip open and just take the bait off and exchange out a new one. Also, it does add a different, little bit different action to it. I'm not going to lie to you. I haven't ever used one. I'm totally honest. But
I use them a lot for
the reason being, But the reason being is because it always scared me on, it's just another fail point. If it bends out or something like that. But yeah, I do know a lot of guys that do, and they even prefer it because it even adds an extra action to it. It's kind of easier to throw slack to the bait because you have more leeway instead of it just locked down on one spot. Yeah. But I particularly don't. But I do know a lot of guys that are very, very good at throwing glides that do. So it's not. I wouldn't not do it because I don't. I just particularly don't. I've never run into any instances where I thought that it would get me more bites or something like that. I'll just cut it off and tie another one on as far as the other aspect of it.
I'm fairly familiar with them. A lot of your old school hardcore crankers use clips on balsa baits just for action. It has really nothing to do with being able to swap out the bait. I was kind of raised to throw crankbaits that way, but it's more about letting that bait just pendulum on that, swing free on that clip. I will say, I've never had one fail, and of course, you're not going to throw the same clips that I'm using on these balsa baits. You're not going to put that on.
No.
You got there. There's some really good ones now. Like Decoy makes some good ones. There's some good ones now.
There's a lot of the ones that I know that guys use are like saltwater ones.
Yeah,
So
yeah. They can get saltwater fish on them. I think would be all right. Them little 3, 4, 5 pound bass. Yeah.
exactly.
What else we got, Mike?
Do you ever speed reel the glide bait to create a wake?
Typically, like, so the single jointed ones, no. Um, when I would do something like that, it would be more like something that Brian showed, like those multi jointed baits.
Yeah.
Um, so whether it has a bill, yeah, something like that. So because that bait's not designed to kind of walk side to side. It's more designed to be reeled and kind of snake through the water. There are ones that there's multiple of them that have bills. They're designed to be reeled that way. But I do see what you're saying though, as far as like making more of a erratic action. If you get one up behind it and you maybe speed reel it or something like that and trigger that fish to biting. I don't.
Yeah. Hey, how about this? I saw this question. Mac Toon was asking about a good line through soft swim bait that is a shallow runner for 2 to 3 foot that doesn't blow out. I know you throw those quite a bit too. I kind of kept it on glides, but I know you throw soft baits too. You got one that you like?
Yeah.
Good line through?
So a shallow one that doesn't blow out. I mean mag drafts. The mag drafts are really good. Oh, what's the line through? No. That's a treble hook one. That's a harness one.
Yeah.
One that I really like line through wise is it's a 316. It's called the Rising Sun. That day that Lee Livesey or that tournament that Lee Livesey won on Fork a couple years ago, where he had 42 pounds the final day.
Yeah.
That was one of the baits he was throwing was an 8-inch Rising Sun. They make two different models. I have a couple in my garage, but they have a weight on the bottom of them. It's a big boot tail swim bait, and they have an option where the line goes in through the nose and it comes out through the bottom, and you can hook a treble hook onto the bottom. But and so that one's probably going to be your shallower one. The reason being is with the line coming through like up high on the nose and coming out the bottom, that bait's going to want to rise up in the water
Right.
column. They also make one that goes the same exact direction it goes through, but then they have a chamber that goes straight up. So it comes out the bottom and then goes up, and you tie your hook on the top and you puncture it into the bait, and that keeps it more level because it's not pulling up as much.
Got
But
it.
yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, I mean, I honestly, if I'm going to throw a swim bait shallow, it's probably going to be something like a mag draft. There's plenty of harness ones nowadays. Spro makes one. Um, but I actually, I mean, once again, obviously not sponsored by them whatsoever, but AJ Jr. has been really, really boasting about this G Crack one they're coming out with. And I watched one of his recent videos on it, and it looks really, really cool.
I saw it on
I'm
Instagram yesterday, if I'm not
yeah. Do you see
mistaken.
that?
If it's the right one, if that's what you're
Yeah,
talking about. I did see one
yeah,
on
yeah. So
it.
yeah. He top 10 somewhere. I don't remember where
Yeah.
it was. I'm not going to even act like I did, but using it, and he really, really showed it to a camera a bunch. Obviously, he's sponsored by G Crack, and he had input on designing the bait, but it was very, very, very impressive. Like the amount of stuff that they added to that bait. It was kind of like they used all the different companies' downfalls, like the everything that's wrong with each bait, and kind of went in depth, hardcore into like perfecting that bait. He was showing all kinds of different clips on it. It has multiple different options on rigging. So it comes out of the package. He said I'm pretty sure it's elastomer. So like you deal with Z-Man baits.
Yeah,
I
Z-Man.
mean, you're gonna have that bait. You're probably gonna be able to go through a ton of fish on it unless you break it off. So and those big swim baits like that are expensive. Something like a mag draft. We all know if anybody that throws a mag draft, that harness will rip out of there. It's a very soft bait. If you speed it up, the bait blows out. So it's just like each bait has their own downfalls. Well, they did with this bait. Has a J hook option, which is comes up to the top. and then you tie it off to just a regular J hook, whether like a flipping hook or something like that. Give people an idea of what a J hook is. And then it pops into place on the head of the bait. It has like a little chamber, and he like showed it in the video, and it like you could hear it pop into place. And then also it came with a treble hook where you could come through the bottom, and you hear it pop into place as well. So like the bait will go sliding up the line, and then you just bring it back down and pop it into place. It has like a hard plastic little section on it, so it doesn't rip into the bait or anything like that, like a lot of the other ones. So I'm actually pretty excited to try that one out. But yeah, as far as what ones I throw line through wise, I mean, pretty much the ones that I've done the most damage on has been those Rising Suns.
Have you tried that Berkeley one? I thought that was some of the magic behind
Coal
it.
Shad?
Yeah, is that? I thought you were supposed to be
Yeah,
able to
yeah. It's just it's like a mag drop. It's not a line through. It's it's a harness bait with a treble. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it works great. That and a mag draft, they're kind of like the staple bait. The mag draft was the OG of it, but the downfall of the mag draft is it's soft, but it's also the beauty of it. It imparts so much action in the bait, but it doesn't last a lot of fish. I mean, you can spend $14 on a bait and catch one fish on it, and it's done.
Yeah, it's done.
But the Coal Shad, I'm pretty sure is a little better about it.
One guy's asking about fishing a tidal river. This guy Kenny Pfeiffer, he's asking about fishing a tidal river with a glide. Have you ever done that? Had any success? Got any particular baits you like to use?
Trying to think of a tidal place that I fish. I mean, yeah, we fished Potomac. Yeah. We fished Potomac. I didn't throw it there. I mean, on the tidal fisheries that I fished, and also I'll say this too, it's because I'm a novice tidal fisherman. I'm very, very familiar doing it in saltwater, but it's a whole different ballgame. But
it's a different discipline for sure.
Yeah, I know. So I haven't, and that's also just because when I have fished tidal fisheries, it was before I kind of really dove in head first on using these glides. But I mean, so I don't particularly have experience doing it, but I mean, you can just impart the same things that we're talking about, whether it's, tidal fisheries. It's not, don't get me wrong, you do have some, I mean, Potomac has a bunch of grass and stuff like that. So whether your fishery, like it kind of just depends on the cover in your fishery, whether you're fishing, bars or you're fishing docks or you're fishing wood. It's really the tidal part of it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's just, wherever you're going to fish, depending on that tide, it's just, if you can cycle a glide bait into it, do it. Obviously you're not going to do it somewhere where you can't throw the bait and get it out, but yeah. So, I mean, just something to try. I would try it.
Yeah. I think the problem with there again, Kenny fishes the Potomac, probably a little the James, Chesapeake, snakehead.
Snakeheads. I was waiting for it.
I don't know if I'm throwing mine in there or not. Maybe you are. I don't know. I don't know if a snakehead, they like to live pretty thick in cover. I don't know if they would live anywhere where you could catch one. Then them gosh dang catfish on the Potomac too.
Oh my gosh, dude! The amount of
chatterbait, bro.
Dude, oh my gosh. I mean, donk on that dang chatterbait, dude. Oh my gosh. I think the first day that I ever fished that lake or that river, I probably got 20 of them.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
It's so good that you actually can just tie on a chatterbait and go on some main lake grass and go catfishing. I did it. Like I literally did it. When we went there like 4 or 5 years ago. And I had the camera guys with me, and they wanted to fish because they come from a long way. I was like, "Look, we'll grab a chatterbait, we'll go out on the main river and throw on the edges." And we literally caught like a dozen catfish that day.
I believe it.
Yeah, this is not something you're not supposed to be able to do that, but we did it.
No,
definitely did it.
No, it's crazy how different fisheries like the catfish and the drum and stuff like that like react and act totally different. There's certain fisheries where them son of a guns bite, and then there's other ones where they really don't.
They don't. I don't have a problem catching catfish at home. You catch one here and there, but it's not like a problem.
No.
I
Yeah,
I saw
exactly.
another question about Mac Toon was asking about a good brim version of a glide bait that you would like. I lost the question here, but I know that was the basic gist of it. If you have a
Okay.
brim one.
I'll break out my toys. Hold on one second.
Oh yeah, tell us about that storage. That might be interesting. How are you storing those things?
Yeah. So I mean, I throw them in this Spro bag. I mean, this bag is pretty expensive if we're going to be honest. The amount of stuff, it's the amount of glide baits that are in this bag. But Spro makes a Spro makes a glide bait carrier, which is pretty sweet. You can, I mean, I'll just show how it works, and it's how I was doing it at first. At the moment, it's just an absolute jumbled mess.
Yeah,
but
you know where they
but
are.
yeah, so like a big bait like this, you're probably gonna have to take the hooks off. But so you squeeze it height-wise, and it widens it, and you just slide it up in there, and then it tightens down on it, and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, a little prophylactic.
So yeah, that was a big word, be that. I'm
Oh,
impressed.
hey, I went to tech school. Okay, I
I
have an
didn't go
associate's
to
in
college. That
horticulture.
was above my pay grade.
Yeah, man, I went to tech school for 2 years, so
yeah,
I'm
so
pretty
yeah, so
educated here. You refer to
but
me
as
as
far as how
Doctor
I storm,
Latimer.
no, I got you. I got you.
Yeah,
But yeah, so I get one of these big bags, and I'll put them in these deals, and the smaller glides and stuff like that. Like this is a Yozuri. It's one of the plastic ones that you can buy in stores, and obviously it's smaller to where you don't have to take the hooks off of it. But I got a brim glide in here, so I'm pretty sure Clutch is designing one at the moment. I haven't got my hands on it, but ow, see him. That's the problem with not putting them in the container deals. But as far as a brim glide that I like, there's a couple of them out there, but
yeah,
I'll show this custom guy some love. I mean, it's not it's not very cheap, for being honest. I think this bait is. I haven't bought one in a while, but I think they're anywhere from like 130 to they're in the $100 range. But
yeah,
this is a Texas swim baits. Uh, I believe so. He had these up on the site, and he was doing drops with them. You know, a lot of these swim bait resin guys, they do drops and stuff like that. Uh, and that was like his crappie, but I thought it looked like a dang brim. I mean, it's only
yeah.
I don't obviously don't have a ruler with me, but just kind of give you a reference. It's not pretty relatively sized. This one's been absolutely had the paint beat off of it. I actually caught an 11-pounder on this bait.
Really?
This bait itself, yeah,
Where at?
yep. Isolated grass clump in Florida. Threw this bad bait over. There was a ton of brim in it. You can actually throw a drop shot or something like that in there and catch. You can catch one of the big brim out of it. So it kind of showed you what they were feeding on. But
Right.
yeah, I caught a bunch of. To be honest with you, I haven't thrown this bad boy in a long time. I've broken out a couple instances actually this year on spawning fish, but they did not bite it. To be honest with you, but yeah, in the past I've caught them really good on this Texas swim baits. I believe he calls that one the crappie, and this is one that he made custom for me. I think he might have done a little drop with it, but it's just, I mean, you can't tell me that don't look like a dang brim.
Yeah.
Um,
Is it
but
not fair to
yeah,
say, like, even when bass are on brim and they're feeding on brim, is it not fair to say just throw the same swim baits that you've been throwing anyway? Because I mean, it's
yeah,
not so
and
cold
also,
or anything.
yeah, also, you know, um, I will say this too. So I'll come back to that, but I'll say this too. Like a bait this size, whether it's probably I don't know, I'm just gonna shoot a number out there, probably 5 or 6 inches.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you can get them to eat a different bait instead. Now, don't get me wrong, this bait is super realistic, and it's very, very beautiful. But I will say, there probably is some aspect to it that you're selling the fisherman. I mean, that's the majority of the baits nowadays.
Yeah.
Pretty
I
paint
need a
jobs and
brim
stuff like that.
swim bait. It needs to look like a
Exactly.
brim swim bait. Yeah.
Exactly.
A
Yeah,
lot
there's
of
some
stuff.
guys that throw them big glide baits, and they're chartreuse and pink.
Yeah.
I
Lemonade.
mean,
Isn't that what they call it? Lemonade or
pink
lemonade?
lemonade, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, or a bone, bone topwater.
Black.
But
I've heard black is good, I've
yeah,
heard.
yeah. So, as far as brim swim baits go, though, like I really like that one. I've caught an 11 on that one. I'm pretty sure Depths makes I think it's called a bowl shooter. It's a big brim glide. I want to say it's somewhere between 6 and 8 inches. It's big. I know some people have caught some big ones on those, but as far as like, a brim glide bait, a lot of times, especially if I'm using like forward facing sonar or fishing brim beds or stuff like that, somewhere where I know they're feeding on brim, I can get those fish to eat a different bait. I'll get them
Right.
to eat a jig, or I'll get them to eat, something else. So
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. There are instances, I'm sure, like that year that I had on that lake that I caught that 11. I caught a lot of big fish on that glide bait. So am I going to
Yeah.
say there's not an instance for it? No, because that would be a cold hearted. That would be straight up lying. Because like I said, I caught a bunch of big fish on that bait. So
Yeah.
yeah, that one, Depths makes one, and I think there's a couple more out there, but yeah, it's really, I don't have a bunch of experience with them, so I'm not going to kind of send you their way without having
Got it.
prior knowledge.
I'll take one or two more and then we'll let Bobby get on with his life. I got one from Mark Jonas. Mark Jonas says, do you get into modifying your big baits, like grinding material off so you achieve different action to them, or mainly leave them alone?
So the only time that really plays, gosh dang, I got a hook in my bed. Oh,
Oh, that's the worst. Not in the blanket.
yeah,
Yeah, that's the worst.
that comforter is not the
That
same.
ain't coming out. Yeah, you're gonna have to cut that out.
Yeah. I ripped it out.
Yeah.
But anyway, where was that? Here's everyone. Okay, so I'll just use this one as an example. So as far as big baits go, no. Kind of where I'm not gonna say he started it, but Milliken made some videos on it on some of the 6 Sense glides where so like I was saying, this has a lot to do with the action that it imparts. And so what guys will do, what he's talking about in particular, is this kind of section where it comes out right here, is they'll cut
Grind it
that
down.
off and they'll cut it flat, and it allows this bait more action side to side. And when you do that, it'll make it a lot more choppy. But as far as my big baits goes, all my big baits are resin, and absolutely not.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna take a grinder to a resin bait. I mean, you could, and that would be, I'm also not somebody that's going to, really tinker like that. I'll tinker with adding weight or stuff like that, but when it comes to breaking the grinder out to mess with a bait, I'll just buy a different one.
Obviously, I'll grind my teeth with a grinder before I grind my swim baits.
Yeah, I ain't doing
Yeah.
that, especially not one of these. But yeah, I mean, I do see what you're saying. I saw Milliken talking about it a bunch, where you can grind that flat, and it'll impart different action to it. But these bigger glide baits, I don't have a pair of pliers, but I might be able to show you okay, yeah, this one for sure. So some glide bait brands, they'll have this deal right here. Yeah, you can see that
Yeah. That's it.
that little piece
Dial.
of metal, and that's actually what holds. There's two eye bolts that come out of or eye screws, whatever you want to call them. They come out of the front part of this bait, and there's a little chamber in this deal. Yeah, you can see it pretty dang good, actually.
That's it.
there's a little chamber, and this piece of metal is what holds it in place.
Okay.
So if I had a pair of pliers, I could probably, or if I use my teeth, but I'm not going to, you can actually pull that out. Let me find the dang camera on this thing. You can pull that deal out right there, and these eye bolts, you can unscrew them or screw them. And what that'll do is actually, what do I do with that bag? I probably should have one in here that accurately represents that. Yeah, this bad boy right here. Give me you. So this is a phony shad. It has the same deal. This one's so a lot of the baits that I own, except for the clutch ones, are pretty much all pre-owned. And the way that I got them, there's online forums, or where I got the majority of mine are. It's a Facebook group. It's called Swim Bait Universe, and it's just people flip them like people do with shoes and stuff like that, where they like waffle them. They'll buy them because you can buy them. All these custom manufacturers will do drops, and they'll sell out quick. So when they sell out, so people will buy a couple of them and then they'll resell them for more expensive and they'll make money on them. But or you'll just get guys that just sell them after using it for a little bit, or they have no use for it and stuff like that. So pretty much the majority of these baits I bought pre-owned. So this bait in particular, it used to have a fin right here, and somebody took it out. And also this pin is usually up out higher, like those clutch baits, to where you can pull it out and tinker with it. So what I did, I don't know if you can see that, but see how you can actually see all the way through that bait. And what I did is I took that pin out and I loosened it up. And what that did was, as you can see, that bait is dang near, that tail is dang near 90 degrees.
Right.
So what I did with that, the tighter action that you're gonna, or the tighter you make those bolts, the wider glide you're gonna have.
Okay.
So this is like you got tuning a crankbait and stuff like that. This is where tuning a glide bait comes into play. You can do the whole deal where you're cutting off, but then you got to deal with resin and all that crap unless you're dealing with a plastic one. Or these resin ones, a lot of them, like I said, you can pull this pin out and loosen them. So this one, what I did with this one is I loosened it up a bunch, and with that allowing it to move that much, it made it a lot more choppy. And a lot of the glide baits that are this size, I mean, this is, like I said, this bait right here is 9 3/4 inches, so it's probably 9 inches. And a lot of baits that size aren't choppy. So I did something a little different to it, and imparted a little different action to it. And I actually really liked how it looked in the water. And how I found that out was I bought a pre-owned one of these, phony, and I was throwing it in my swimming pool, and it had a whole different action to it. And I saw that, and I was like, that looks different. Like, what the heck? I was like, this guy had no idea what he was doing. Why would he do that? And I threw it in my pool, and I was like, whoa, I kind of like that. And it was very, I could slow it down, and I could chop it really quick. So, there is some things you can do to these baits rather than just pull it out of the pack and throw them. But a lot of these ones, I don't really do a whole lot to them. Like these, especially these clutches, like I don't really do anything to them. There has been maybe one instance where I got one, and I was like, that one's not really working great. And I compared it to another one that I had, and just the eye bolt was like a turn off. And I turned it to pretty much the same point the other one was. It worked great, and it worked great. So, but there's not every bait's going to have something like that. Like this Hinkle shad doesn't have a pin or nothing like that.
Right, gotcha.
But, yeah,
man, this is good stuff, Bobby. That was way more detailed than I even expected us to go in on that. Good stuff.
I've done it a good bit.
Yeah, I know. I was the first person when I put out a feeler a couple of months ago about stuff that people wanted to talk about with tournaments. That I saw glides quite a few. The first person I called ask if we would do it. So I'm glad we were able to line this up, man. Man, I definitely want to have you back on, talk about this stuff some more, maybe in a different season. I guess, do you always approach every season the same with glides, or is it like, okay, now when it's springtime, I'm doing this, this, and this, or and then you live in Florida, you don't have seasons. So,
yeah, well, I mean, it just, I mean, yeah, it's a bait I'll always have on the deck, but they, the fish do different things different times of year. So like wintertime, they're going to be more feeding and stuff like that, and especially when it's cold, they they don't want to work as hard. I feel like so like they'll they only got to eat one time if they're going to eat a bait that big for maybe that day. So yeah, there definitely are instances where I throw it more, but it just a lot of it has to do with what the fish are doing.
Yeah, gotcha. I hear you loud and clear on that one.
Yeah.
Great stuff, man. Thanks again for taking the time to do it. I'm sure the engagement's been really good. A lot of people talking, and I think you answered. There's more questions that were in the chat, but we covered just about all of them. Everything. Yeah. I mean, everything. You went deep dive into the stuff, so I really appreciate you taking time to do that. A lot of good secrets and nuggets there, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, buddy.
Yeah, man. If nothing else, I know I'm gonna see you'll be at ICAST. I'm assuming, right? I'll probably see you in a couple.
Oh yeah, heck, it's 30 minutes from my house.
Yeah, we'll have to go hang out with Joe, our other buddy.
100%.
We got to give Joe a hard time. It's
oh yeah, yeah.
Yep.
And then after that we got Champlain. You're gonna be there, right?
Yeah. Is it the week after, or we have a week in between? It's the week.
It's like a week in between. I think ICAST is like the 13th through the 16th or 17th or something like that. The 14th through the 17th, and then the Champlain is the 24th through the 26th is the Derb. I think we got to be there like the 20th.
So we got a week in between this time. That helps a little bit because we've had it where I had to leave ICAST and go straight to driving. I've had that several times.
Yeah.
Fun.
I'm looking forward to that. That place up there is fun.
Yeah, it's good, man. Champlain's my favorite place in the world. I could stay up there for a couple of weeks, honestly, and just hang out. There's other good lakes up there. Champlain's probably the least of the best ones up there. Believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, George is fun. Like if you just want to catch fish, I wouldn't say size on some of those ones. George is fun to fish. One of the guys here in the app, he's told me about Saratoga is good. All those lakes you see going on the way up there on those signs. I stopped at George one time. You can catch so many fish there. So all good places,
really?
man. Yeah, man. A lot of fun. I love to do it.
I love it up there.
Yeah, man. Thanks again. I'll send you some clips from this if you can use it for anything in your social. You're more than glad to do that, man. I'm definitely gonna keep you on tabs. Maybe we can get you to circle back again this fall. We have new people cycle through the app all the time, so who we're talking to now might not be the same people when we get to the fall. I'll definitely give you again, man.
Yeah, anytime, buddy. I'm always here. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Mike, you got anything else before we sign off today?
Oh, we're back at it to finish it off tomorrow, right?
Yep. Yeah, we got 12 and 6 o'clock tomorrow, guys. So everybody in the app, last day of this tournament fishing workshops tomorrow. It's going to be 12 o'clock and then 6 o'clock. So tomorrow at 12 o'clock, Michael, I did just confirm, I guess, for tomorrow. We're going to get Dave Washburn from Major League Fishing. He's going to come and talk to us about how you guys can get started tournament fishing and the different levels that you can jump in, all the way from college fishing all the way to the Bass Pro Tour. We're going to talk about that and how much money you can win out here tournament fishing. Don't let nobody tell you there ain't no money in fishing. It's out there. It might be hard to get your hands on, but there's definitely money in it.
Yeah, you gotta spend some to make some in this
You don't
world.
have to spend some, but it's definitely money in fishing. Maybe the most it's probably been in a long time. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. All right, Bobby, you have a good rest of your night, boss. I'm gonna go grab me something to eat. Michael, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, man.
You too, buddy. I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a good rest of your night. See you.
All right, buddy.